What's up, guys? SaltEMike here, coming at you with another week in review. And I want to start out with thank you so much for the positivity on the pilot episode. You guys really enjoyed it, way more than I expected you guys to. And I'd already planned a vacation, and then we ended up taking a 2-week hiatus, basically, from the series. And I'm really excited to get it started up again. And as a lot of you know at this point, that vacation was for my mother's birthday, and I ended up getting engaged. So I just wanted to say thank you again for all of the congratulations. I really appreciate it. It was very nice of you guys. But I'm really excited to get started right back into the series. And as we will always start is with any significant patch notes. And since we took such a long hiatus, there's actually been some PTU patches, as well as those patches culminating into a live build. We're not going to go over the live patch notes, as they are basically a culmination of the initial PTU patch notes all the way through the lettered patch notes that we get throughout the month. We're also not going to be going over any bug fixes in each of these patches, as once you get to the point of watching this video, that bug likely would have come and gone. So we're going to start out with Patch M. And Patch M added weapon attachments, or optics, to the game. And they added various optics to the Stanton system, and we got a red dot, we got a holographic 3x, a telescopic 4x, and a telescopic 8x attachment. And the initial implementation, I'm fortunate that I was on vacation for this one. It was a little bit rough, but they all seem to be working pretty well right now. But for me personally, I'm more excited to see what happens with the underbarrel and on-barrel attachments, as they would directly affect the performance of a weapon. And unfortunately, we don't see those anywhere on the roadmap right now. All I see on the roadmap currently is a check mark next to weapon attachments, when it should maybe be labeled as weapon optics. And then moving on to Patch N, we have Voice over IP, and Face over IP is finally on by default for all players. It didn't work initially really at all. It's still struggling in the live build at times as well, but this is really a game changer for a lot of people who play this game, specifically role players. So if you're kind of into role play, or just want to communicate with a ship that flies by you or another player that you walk across, this is probably a patch that you can start playing now. I can hear you, but very quietly. Come to the center room. Is that you? Friendly?
Yeah, that's me. That's me. That's me.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Is that you? Lights on. There's someone else in here.
Okay, okay. My crim rating is gone, and now we're gonna get another one. Hello?
Drop the gun.
Friendly. Got him. I told you we were friendly! So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with Face over IP and Voice over IP lately. Moving on to the OPTU patch, there was really nothing of note in there other than some actually fairly significant bug fixes and crash fixes, but again, we're not going to be really going into those on this video. Also, Patch P, they fixed some search mechanics after interdictions, where you would get a criminal rating a lot of the time. Now, if you stop and stand there, they will search you and either let you go or give you a criminal rating, take your items that may be illegal in your ship, or fire on you directly. There's also now no cap to PvP bounty missions, so if you're going through your progression with the bounty system, you will eventually get PvP missions. And as many PvP bounties there may be on the server, there is no longer a cap to it. Moving on to Patch Q, they re-added the flyby sounds back into the game. Now, a lot of us have seen plenty of Twitch clips and YouTube videos of ships flying by, and they kind of disappeared recently, and they're finally back in, and the game is sounding great again. Patch R is a significant improvement to a lot of issues that we had in the PTU. And there they disabled hover mode when you're not in atmosphere. So there was lots of issues when going over a landing pad of just slamming into stations and gaining an incredible amount of acceleration out of nowhere. So their solution was to just turn it off by default. And it's been really a welcoming fix, and it's been very nice experience taking off and landing from space stations now. In patch S, there's actually a pretty significant change here as well, where they changed the prices of the ships. And this is something that definitely needed to be done. We did a previous video on the ship prices, and I still have been updating the document in that video description. So I'm going to put a link to it, and there'll be a little thing to click up in the top right here as well. But most notably, the prices on the Avengers went down significantly to be kind of right in line where they belong, but the price in the Prospector has gone up by 500,000 or about 400,000 and is around 2 million credits now. And the S patch actually is what ended up being our live build candidate, and performance has been great in the live build in comparison to the PTU, but it still definitely has its bugs. Really looking forward to the random ship explosions to get fixed. Moving on to roadmap updates, we've obviously had 2 since I've been gone, but the major improvements in, I guess, progression was on rest stop interiors, actually. I'm really surprised how quickly that came along, but I guess that's what procedural technology will do, is we went from nearly nothing being done to it being almost complete and ready for 3.7, as well as some progress, obviously, on the 3.6.1 patch. And then we can also see that they're still continuing to work on landing zones in the future, which, for me, keeps hope that server-side OCS is still progressing and going in the right direction, and maybe we're going to see that significant performance boost or just some boost and excitement for the game coming towards the end of the year, similar to what we had last year, where most of the year was kind of meh, but then we got OCS, performance improved, and things got a lot more interesting for us. And moving on to video content, we had 2 Star Citizen lives. One of them was with the audio team. I will not be sharing any information on the audio stuff. I usually, for any updates and any sort of back and forth type discussion videos, will never share anything about audio because you just kind of have to listen to it. And there's not really much there for us in this kind of video, but they did have a UI video, and I think there's a lot to share with you with that. And the first discussion was something that we've heard on Star Citizen Live, RTV, ATV, everything for a long time, are questions about, can we customize our UI? And they have an interesting answer about this, so I want you to listen.
Right off the bat, what can you tell us about plans to let users customize their various HUD elements? We have been hearing this for a long time here. Things like prioritizing features and resizing elements or changing the color, stuff like that. What are our thoughts on this?
So it's an interesting question, really. I suppose the thing that we would ask first is why do people want to customize things? I get the impression in some cases it's just because the current UI which needs a little bit of updating, is not quite working for people. So I think the first step for us would be to find out those issues that people don't want, well, the way it's set up that people don't like at the moment, and that's the first thing for us to address. So relating to that, we're doing a lot of rework on the HUD and the MFDs and the FPS visor at the moment. So a lot of those kind of questions, it's great to bring up the reasoning now, and then we can start to incorporate that into these things as we move forward.
And it's interesting to hear that the initial right off the bat answer was not yes, we'll let you customize the UI. It was more, our UI isn't very great right now, so obviously you want to change it. So we're going to listen to your feedback, and we're going to try and make the best UI possible, and then consider customizing it. And with that, we go into kind of the next discussion, and it's about this thing that they were calling building blocks.
So basically, building blocks is is like our internal term for the UI tech. So the tool that we use to develop UIs, the new one, not the old one. So like a lot of it is allowing for like flexible layouts or being able to easily reflow elements so they can rearrange themselves very easily relative to each other. And it opens up so much more because we can make the UI so much more dynamic and responsive and flexible, whereas before it's just kind of, if we were to think about like maybe layout customization, or if we had like a grid system, something you can kind of plug into and rearrange on, then it makes it so much easier than before, because everything before was just hardwired. It was very static in nature. But if we have a fully data-driven and flexible system, it kind of opens that up. Now that we can start asking like what makes sense for customization. Like previously, it was just like, yeah, we could do colors, but like it'd be very complicated to do, resizing and things like that when you have a very statically authored UI. So implementation-wise, it's like much easier now. So it's just basically like, what are the kind of the fundamental issues? Like, we mentioned things about the bright, like, how readable things are against, bright backgrounds, and, you want to change colors. But, we'll kind of allude to this later on, I think. But, there might be a better solution for that. That's right. Goes beyond UI.
Building blocks kind of seems like our object container streaming for UI. It seems like it's going to streamline everything for them really, really well, where we don't have these kind of massive bottlenecks, perhaps, with UI. It seems like Zane is working on something to make all the developers' lives easier when implementing UI into the game. And moving on from that, we had a question about HUD elements and why they disappear from the UI when going into different modes. And I think this is an important kind of question that they answer, and it's sort of related to the building blocks thing.
ShipHUD, right off the bat, why does quantum calibration mode, scanning mode, mining mode, and any other sub-UI mode take away or hide crucial flight information, such as speed, altitude, attitude, and any other useful information needed for basic flight?
So they're basically developed in under the hood as different contexts. In our overhaul of the design, we're factoring that all that flight HUD information, so it's all available to you, regardless of whether you're kind of in scanning or in mining mode or whatever it is, because it is still relevant. You can still fly, so therefore you should still retain all your flight information that you need. So in those modes, we're looking at potentially contextually changing out the screens themselves. So rather than just having the HUD change for these different modes, we can leverage the screens in some capacity, contextually changing some of the elements, shifting elements around so that certain information that's relevant to that mode can be displayed, rather than just kind of taking up your entire HUD as well.
It's just nice to hear that they have plans for the different elements to kind of always be displayed on screen, at least the important ones. And it's because when you go into quantum mode, or you're in mining mode, or you're scanning, those are things that a lot of us are going to be doing all the time. So losing important HUD elements is quite frustrating. So it's nice to know that they know the issue and are planning for a solution. And with that, we move on to the most important thing from this video. If I shared anything, it probably would have been only this. And it's kind of almost their roadmap for the UI with this building blocks thing. So have a listen.
Yeah, actually, the cool thing about the UI tech that I'm helping develop is that we're kind of taking cues from the area of like web development, because that's my background too, so I know a lot about it. But you have this thing called responsive design, so you can have rules set up where beyond a certain point, like if there's a box in our UI that goes beyond a certain point, that you shrinks down beyond a certain point, that you can actually have different styles or visual descriptions applied to that, and conditionally depending on maybe how much it's sized. So we're kind of leveraging that to help with the reformulation of the UI on screens, as well as when we're laying things out and when we potentially open up customization, that can be really helpful as like a tool to help us manage and maintain the UI, because even on like different size screens in the game, you have like 69, you have 4.3s, you have 1.1s. Currently, we have to maintain 3 different binary files for those. And if you want to make a change in one, well, you have to go into each binary file and make that same change. But if we can just maintain one UI and then just have these different style rules applied to it, right, then it makes it much easier to maintain. So you just change one thing and it changes for every different manufacturer or every different kind of configuration, and it all works.
We'd love to.
There's one thing might be interesting is the actual process that we're going through with those. We've got Mark Colleran, he's quite famous for UI fans out there. He's looking through the designs we've already got, like what's in the game now, and also working very closely with the vehicles team, talking to them, what do you want to show on these screens, and kind of trying to plan out generally what's in all the MFDs, and then going and redesigning each screen to kind of get the best out of it. So we're at that stage now, and then as Zane's team progresses the UI tech, eventually we'll get to a point where the screens are redesigned, the tech's ready, and then we'll start to put those in the game.
So with that discussion, it's very clear as to why we're not seeing very much UI improvements in the game right now. It really seems like they're working on this underlying tech, and once that tech is done, they will start implementing the improvements and ideas that they've been working on to change and improve our HUDs, our MFDs, our visors. Everything in-game is going to start seeing changes once this technology comes online. So just be patient with it, and we should be able to see some pretty interesting and exciting changes in the near future. And with that, we're sort of coming towards the end of the video, which is where we go into the miscellaneous kind of news for the week. Our buyback tokens became available, so if you have a ship that you want to purchase for store credit, you have your buyback token available to you as of July 8th. There were CitizenCon tickets for sale. They are no longer for sale, so if you kind of missed your chance if you're just hearing about it in this video. Unfortunately, I will not be attending with you guys this year, but I will be there in spirit. So I hope everyone that did get a ticket, you guys enjoy yourselves. And the last bit is our one kind of dev post that was interesting, and it was from Bear of Red about the black market system. And he kind of said, hey guys, we would instead of laying out every piece of the game, sometimes we would like to let you discover it yourselves. And people got pretty upset by that, which I don't really understand. And he went on to clarify a little bit later as to why, and all of those things should be up on the screen for you to read. But yeah, you kind of need to allow us to play the game a little bit instead of just laying it out for us and then we play it for a few days and then we never play again until the next patch. You know, it is a video game. It's meant to be played, guys. So please go out there and enjoy 3.6 like I am trying to now. Obviously, as I said earlier, with the live build, there's quite a few bugs, and it's actually quite difficult for me to play, especially with like cargo hauling and stuff, which is what I enjoy. But get out there and play the game and figure it out for yourselves. There should be a guide for everything all the time. But with that said, guys, I really enjoyed making this video, and I hope you continue to enjoy this series. Leave a like and a comment below, and let me know what you think about it, and I will see you guys in the next week in review. Bye, everybody.